Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. After a week off last week due to the holidays, we are back for episode 8, and this is also going to be the first week where we are also on YouTube. So be sure to head over to the Adam Eisen Show on YouTube to check it out. I'm going to be adding a bunch of fun things into the podcast here soon, which will primarily be taking place on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into it with Week 12 reactions, Week 13 predictions from the NFL. Started off for me, Titans at Patriots. Patriots won this game 36-13. Patriots now move to the number 2 spot in the AFC, just a half game behind Baltimore, who's sitting at 8-3 and number 1 in the AFC. Titans at this point have lost. They went into this game without any other weapons. They went in without A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill was dealing with a completely different offense than he was at the beginning of this season. So you got to give him some leeway there, but I expected the Titans to put up much more of a fight than a 36-13 rout by the Patriots. Mac Jones is looking great. He's throwing 7.5 yards of completion. That's exactly what you want from a veteran quarterback, and Mac Jones right now is doing it as a rookie. And Bourne really starting to get involved. He got both touchdowns from Mac this past weekend. Thought it was huge. The Patriots are very much surprising me. I kept expecting them to die off a little bit, and they're now on this massive win streak. It's like 6 games long at this point. And I believe it's the longest in the NFL. And they just keep going. And you never, if it was any other team, I'd say, oh, rookie quarterback, oh, this, oh, that. But it's Bill Belichick. And I know almost every single year, Bill Belichick deserves or is in the conversation for Coach of the Year. But he never gets it because it's Bill Belichick, and everybody just knows how great of a football mind he has. But this year is one of the best years we've seen from him. He had a great free agency. If you guys remember, they got 2 huge tight ends. They were getting linemen, receivers. They were doing whatever they needed to do. So Bill did not have to have another year at the bottom of the AFC. He said no more of that. That he hit on all of his draft picks, and now he has an absolutely massive game that awaits him. Patriots at Bills on Monday Night Football. If the Patriots win, they're going to be 2 games up on the Bills in the division, and they're going to be looking like the top team in the AFC. They're in the last 6-game win streak they've had, they're plus 13 in takeaways. And somehow, under Belichick, the Patriots are 4-1 when giving up 250 more rushing yards. For 31 out of 32 teams in the NFL, if your run game defense is not a top 5, you don't have a chance. Belichick is the one coach, I would say, where he can draw up plays, he can get you back in the game and take time away. Because the big thing with the run game is that it always takes time of possession for the other team. Patriots have a great run game. Likely, whoever they're playing that week is not going to have the ball as much. Time of possession is going to be a bit lopsided. And Bill Belichick is able to overcome that, able to draw plays, get plays that are able to get his team back the ball and keep the ball moving down the field for them at a good pace. He should get I don't want to say should get Coach of the Year because I also really want Matt LaFleur to get it, but I doubt he's going to get it, even though great resume with all they've dealt with. Belichick, like I said, almost every single year. It was like back in like 2014. Belichick and Brady deserved Coach of the Year and MVP every single year. They were the best players. They were doing the best things. But you can't give the same players it every single year. And there's other things. They obviously had a great system in place for majority of the years. But this year has been different. It's like going back to 2001 when they were going through all the quarterback. Drew Bledsoe got hurt. Tom Brady comes in. They end up winning the Super Bowl. A lot of things can happen. Belichick is a great mind, And when players come together and the quarterback is good enough, not everything has to be on the quarterback, guys. Some things can switch up, some things can change. And Patriots have not always, like, while Tom Brady was great and he's the greatest quarterback of all time, they still had other parts of their team to rely on. They were not just relying on Tom Brady, like some other teams like to do in the NFL, just rely on their quarterback until their quarterback gets mad and leave. But we're not going to talk about that. So next game I want to look into is Dolphins versus the Panthers. Now, I didn't get a chance to come on here last week, so I didn't get a chance to talk about the football team versus the Panthers. I got to go to that game and say it was really cool to see Cam. He was showboating a lot, going out to the middle of the field, getting the crowd all hyped up, even though he wasn't able to do much at all. And against the Dolphins, he looked even worse. And I kind of want to compare this a little bit. It's like a relationship. When you get back together with someone, 9 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times, it's not going to work out real great, especially if there is a messy ending to the relationship the first time around. And if you guys remember with Carolina, it was not the cleanest ending. Cam wanted to still play with Carolina, but Carolina did not want him. Now Carolina finds himself in this situation. This is what I was saying 3 weeks ago, and I've been knocking on him. I'm going to keep knocking on him. The Panthers spent potentially $10 million. Cam's not going to get that full $10 million now, so we can knock that down to probably about $5.5–6 million for a shot into the dark for 8 games. They are paying Cam Newton's replacement and Cam Newton's replacement, and Cam Newton after that. They're paying 3 quarterbacks right now, all revolving around Cam Newton. That's the mismanagement. And then you also have a lot of Panthers fans are going to be hating on me for this, but McCaffrey is now hurt again. Is he where 4 years, $64 million? I get he's generational, but he's not coming back this season now. That means in the last 2 seasons, he has played a total of 10 games, and he hardly gets over 100 rushing yards. He's supposed to be running back. I get he's great in the receiving game. Panthers are a lot better without him, but you can't rely on a guy like that who you don't know if he's even going to play the next game for you. But back to Cam Newton. Second lowest passer rating ever for a quarterback over 20 attempts, along with 2 picks. He got benched. The Panthers are basically already giving up, not already giving up on him. Cam Newton will still, but he is in a bad place right now. He's going to have to earn it. Granted, can't be in too bad of a place. He's sitting there with minimum 4.5 guaranteed, walking out the door for 8 games. But the mismanagement here on the Panthers, it was very surprising to me. They started off the season very good, and it just seems like the same old Panthers, unfortunately. The other team here, Dolphins. Watch out for the Dolphins. The AFC is wide open at the moment. The NFC is much more closed, and we're going to get into that. But the Dolphins at this point have won 4 straight. That's the second longest streak in the NFL. The only problem with the Dolphins is their division, being the Bills and the Pats. That's going to take a lot to overcome, especially it's looking like the Bills and the Pats are both going to make the playoffs. So for a team to have your division leader and 2 wild cards, that's always been kind of it's been kind of rare. Doesn't really happen. Now with 7 teams on each side, it could happen, but we'll see. But Dolphins have won 4 straight. Tua is looking much, much better. Everybody was knocking on him, especially at the end of last season. I remember when the Dolphins pulled Tua and then put Fitzmagic in, lost the confidence. They switched back and forth the whole year. The locker room didn't want Tua. Well, now, among QBs in November, Tua, 85% completion percentage. That's first. 110 passer rating. That's fourth. 8.58 yards per attempt. 8.58 is extremely high, guys. That's second in the NFL, and he went undefeated through November. 8.58 is a very impressive stat for yards per attempt. And now, with finally 16 starts under his belt, he went 9-7 through those starts. 27 to 12 total touchdowns to turnover ratio, and 90.5 passer rating with 67% completion. That's all better than Kyler Murray, who won Rookie of the Year. I don't want to see, my point from this is I don't want to see in the offseason Dolphins fans still going after Deshaun, and there's still being this media going after Deshaun. Tua is ranked 9 in QBR in 2021. That's ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. I don't want to see people coming for Deshaun Watson. Tua is your guy. I've liked Tua since he's come out of college. There's been all these stories come out of receivers. I get that stuff. Losing confidence. It's too many picks for Deshaun. That price isn't going down. It's all up in the air. And then if you take a look at the Dolphins' schedule, I told you guys they've gone on 4 straight. They've got next Giants at Dolphins. They can easily win that game. Then they have a bye week. Then Jets at Dolphins. Then Dolphins at Saints. Dolphins at Titans. Then Patriots at Dolphins. You got about 3 weeks here where you really got to get yourself good. Then you got a warm-up game against Saints. Dolphins are going to make themselves with those games at the Titans, and Patriots at Dolphins. Patriots have always kind of struggled at Miami. It's been weird. It's just been one of those places. Every team has one of those places. So that'll definitely be a fun game to watch. That's January 9th at 1 o'clock. So I'll be looking forward to watching that one. And I'd love to see the Dolphins make it and Tua prove everybody wrong. Like I said, I've been on him since the beginning when he came in. I remember watching when he came back in the national championship for Alabama, and they benched Jalen Hurts, put in the rookie or the freshman, and Tua went out there, balled, won the game in overtime. That was one of that's what really got me into college football to start with. I love that. I want to switch over to the NFC and take a look into Packers versus the Rams. Seemed very obvious. OBJ has just not plugged into Robert Woods' spot yet. I don't. This Rams team is too talented to be counting them out. They will be a playoffs team. I don't see them as a Super Bowl team at the moment. The thing about the Rams is, and I saw some guys talking about it earlier this week. I wish I could remember who was talking about it, but it was about making a super team, and a super team in the NFL doesn't usually work, especially when you're plugging big names and big personalities in, like Von Miller and OBJ. Mid-season, when those guys are having to come in, that takes a little bit of time to gel with, vibe, get going. And I think that's part of the reason it's led to this little slide. Everybody got maybe got a little bit of cockiness in the Rams organization. Like I said, they will still make the playoffs. I just don't think they're a Super Bowl team any longer. Matt Stafford's going to come back and play better, but it's going to come down to games. Like, they have to play Arizona here in a couple weeks. Big games like that is where we're going to get the true telling sign of what the Rams are going to be. But I'll tell you guys what the Packers are. The Packers are the best team in the NFL. The Packers still without David Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, Kevin King, Zadarius Smith, and a bunch of other guys who have torn their ACLs, done everything to their bodies, and are out for the season. They are continuing to have dominant performances this year, and they really do. I'm going to keep saying it every week. This is the best chance they've had in years, and it's going to be the saddest I've been ever being a football fan when they let me down in the playoffs, because I'm pretty used to it. I'm just going to say it's going to happen. Hopefully, I'm wrong, but I'm going to be this. They can win on every single part of the field. They play fast, physical. The defense is so great while missing players. And the great thing about the missing players, obviously, it's never good for guys to get hurt. But at this point now, the Packers have been dealing with injuries, and people keep getting injured so often that our guys like Rasul Douglas he was a big name after the Arizona game when he got that interception on AJ Green to win the game. Um, Rasul Douglas, he was on the Arizona practice squad at the beginning of October, and now he's making plays. He had a pick six for us last weekend. Guys like that, guys like Henry Black, names that you would never hear. They're getting a ton of reps now, leading to a ton more depth for the Packers, which means, okay, if Jair Alexander can just come back on a limited snap count, that's okay. We have other guys there that have been getting a ton of snaps, ton of game time. And I think it's going to set us up very well for after this year because our cap after this year for the Packers is really in trouble. And we're going to be relying on a lot of young guys next year. So having a year like this, like I said, you never want to have injuries. But having a year like this where guys are able to get more developed and get a lot of playing time, and you're still winning and you still have one of the best shots in the NFL to win the Super Bowl, this really good year so far. And now they're going into their bye week. Everybody's going to be able to get more rest. I'm really liking the way it's looking. The only thing that I think that could cause problems for the Packers is the special teams. Right now, Mason Crosby has 9 missed field goals. That's the most in the NFL out of anyone else. And I promise you guys, at least in one of the games in the playoffs, it's going to come down to Mason Crosby and his leg, and if he can make a field goal. So far this season, really, he started off good the first 6 or so weeks. Since then, it's been pretty bad. And if he doesn't get it straightened out, we can't move on from Mason. Mason is our kicker, and I think guys who aren't Packers fans don't understand, but Mason doesn't really go through this a whole lot, but he's got the mental willpower for it, and he's going to get out of this. And Money Mason will be back. I'm confident in it. It's just, sorry, I could go on forever about the Packers. This is Aaron Rodgers' best team easily that he's gotten. Super Bowl year, they were 24th in running the ball. And this year, when Aaron Jones can go out, A.J. Dillon just picks it up, and it's all good. Not a problem at all. We have 2 dominant running backs. And Aaron Rodgers with a broken toe out there looks completely comfortable out there the whole day, joking Jalen Ramsey, doing everybody, having his way with everybody. He has hardly practiced. He's maybe practiced twice in 4 weeks because he had the COVID, he's had injuries, he's all of that, blah, 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 blah. So it's, in my opinion, I no longer see Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay. With what I said about the depth, with what I said about everybody just gelling together, him not practicing in 4 weeks, him not even needing to practice. Aaron Rodgers is in an insanely weak division at the moment. He's got his best friend back in Randall Cobb. He's having a great time every week on the Pat McAfee show. Granted, that probably continue, but hell, why would he leave? If I were him, I wouldn't. And looking at the NFC now, I think for me, I was 3 weeks ago, beginning of November, I think everybody was looking at the NFC as kind of like 5 teams all together. The Rams, the Packers, the Cardinals, the Bucks, and the Cowboys. They were just anybody could win it. And now I'm starting to see this separate a little bit. And Green Bay, the Bucks, the Cardinals as the main tier 1. And then in tier 2, the Cowboys and the Rams. Great, the Cowboys did have a good win last night. Their defense stepped up big, getting all those picks against Taysom Hill. I'm a big fan of Taysom Hill, but he does not throw a good ball at all. He was just, it felt like 3 straight throws were picks for him, or should have been picks. It was extremely bad play from him. So Cowboys were able to get another win last night on Thursday Night Football. Good for them. And yeah, my Super Bowl teams from the NFC gotta be the Green Bay Bucks or Cards. I'm seeing the Cowboys and the Rams are just kind of playoffs teams now, to be honest. And speaking of the Bucks, Bucks had a big game last week against the Colts. It was a back and forth game the whole times, and Colts were up for a good part of it. It was one of the games I had on, and I really enjoyed watching it. The second Brady got the ball, and with like 2 or so minutes left, I was like, "Oh, here we go. Tom Brady's about to do what Tom Brady does." It's like every time now you can see it coming, except for against Taylor Heineke, apparently, because he can't do it against Heineke. He throws an interception. But back to Bucks versus Colts. The Colts, my opinion, they have their quarterback of the future. Everybody likes to rip on Wentz a little bit. 16 for 24, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was making great deep threat throws. They have their running back. They have the defense. They just got to get more gelled together with Frank Wright there. Frank Wright and Carson Wentz connection has always been a great one. I love the Colts owner, Jim Irsay. I really think this Colt team's going to be on the come up. If they can come out, their schedule for the rest of this year, they have at the Texans, then they have their bye week, then it's Patriots at Colts, Colts at Cardinals, Raiders at Colts, and Colts at Jaguars. So by no means do they have an easy rest of the way. Luckily, they have a bye week. Their bye week coming week 14 as well. Aaron Rodgers was talking about it earlier this week. For he thought that the Packers had one of the last bye weeks in the NFL. No, there's another week after this week for bye weeks. And for football players to have to go 13 straight weeks of playing, that is a long time. And I really think that's something that should be looked into with a bunch of other stuff at the next NFLPA. But I'm going to get into some of that other stuff here in a minute. But back to the Colts. I could see the Colts coming that get I it's just hard to see them Patriots at Colts, Colts at Cardinals, Raiders at Colts. Those 3 tough games in a row. I could see him picking off the Patriots. At the Cardinals, probably not. Colts are probably going to finish right outside the playoff bubble. And either way, even if they make it, they don't make it, I think they'd get first round bounced even if they did make it. They are going to get much better by next season, and it's going to be a much different story come next season, as long as they stick with Carson Wentz and keep trusting the process. Now, Bucks are beginning to get healthy. Brady's passer rating is 14 points higher when Gronk plays. Gronk is back. Everything's looking good. It was a classic Tom Brady game, in my opinion. And the Bucks really just need to continue to play physical. Leonard Fournette with their 4 touchdowns, they are much better when they can keep their offense balanced. Tom Brady obviously has never been a real mobile quarterback. He always memes himself for it and stuff like that, saying he wants to develop elite speed. And he's never been a real mobile quarterback. So you have to have a good run game. That was one of the things Bill Belichick was always real heavy on, was having a good run game and being able to balance out the football and keep time of possession in your favor. That's what the Bucks were able to do. They were able to claw back into this football game. It was very impressive, and that's why even with a loss against football team, whatever may happen, you cannot count out Tom Brady and the Bucks. They are going to be right there in the NFC Championship game when it comes late January, and it's just the way it's going to be. They have too much talent. Now, with AB being suspended, they're also much different. Without AB on the field, AB's being suspended for 3 games. That's a big blow for them. They need AB. Mike Evans has been slacking a little bit as of late. He's still doing good, but Mike Evans is gonna need to step up in this absence. Same with Gronk. I really hope Gronk does. I have him on my fantasy team, and I need Gronk to keep balling out. But going on to more NFC football team versus Seahawks. This is gonna be the final game we look at today, I believe. Heineke is beginning to look a lot more comfortable out there. I'm liking Heineke more and more by the week. They've now won their last 3 games, and 2 of their last 3 games, one against the Bucks, which is the longest drive in the NFL. It was well over 11 minutes, and it was in the fourth quarter against Tom Brady. Taylor Heineke had complete poise, and then against the Seahawks, he had almost a 10-minute drive. It resulted in no points because they went forward on fourth down in the red zone, but it was extremely impressive, and it showed something from Heineke. I think it showed that Heineke can be your quarterback for the future. I feel much, much different about the football team than I do some other 5-win teams around the NFL. Now, the football team's obviously going to have to win out, but if they did win out, they are in position to win the division. I don't see them doing that. Right now they're sitting in the 7 seed spot right behind New Orleans. I see them getting the 6 or the 7 seed in the wild card. I hope they make the playoffs. They were absolutely dominant on the time of possession, 42 minutes compared to the Seahawks 18 minutes, which is just ridiculous. And the defense held the Seahawks offense to 5 straight 3-and-outs, which I know Russ has gone through a few problems and like the finger and stuff like that. He hasn't gotten all the way back. But still, to hold the Seahawks to 5 straight 3-and-outs, to hold any team like that, that is an impressive stat right there. And now I want to look at the Seahawks a little bit. Speaking of Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson, all that. My opinion in this league, it is harder to find a great top 10 quarterback in the NFL compared to finding a great coach that can get you there. There's a bunch of coaches around the NFL right now that can get you there, but there's even more teams around the NFL where the quarterback is the one holding them back. The Seahawks are now 3-8, lost their last 7 games. This is one of the biggest stretches they've ever gone under Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson losing. I think it might be the biggest. Don't know for sure, though. And let's look at last year. Seahawks started dominant. Everybody was all over, oh, Russ is going to win MVP, Russ for MVP. They were saying that before the even first game. I remember Thursday Night Football kickoff last 2020 season. They were talking, oh, Russ has never gotten an MVP, blah, 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 blah. Then Pete Carroll noticed time of possession. Obviously, time of possession is important, but he was like, we need to start running the ball more. I understand you need the good run game. They have too much trust in Chris Carson at the moment. They don't have a run game this year. I'm not liking what Pete Carroll is doing at all. He seems to be relying on what he used to do as a coach. Their defense is good. They're just... I think everybody's still looking at the Seahawks like they're the old Seahawks, and while I still remember that, it's at this point time for a rebuild. They need to keep Russ, get rid of Pete Carroll, and go from there. Russ still has 9 to 10 years left to keep cooking, and there is no reason that you should there is no reason that you should give up on Russ right now and see a bigger upside with Pete Carroll. Now, I wanted to talk about also this week NFL officiating a little bit. I've been thinking about doing this topic for like 3 or 4 weeks now, and I've been waiting. But after Thanksgiving Day, and the Cowboys and the Raiders each racked up 14 penalties apiece, 28 penalties total. 14 penalties apiece has never happened for one. Taunting, roughing the passer, pass interference. It's getting ridiculous at this point. It's legitimately changing the outcome of games. For example, it was Bears-Saints game, I believe it was. Just like the bump on the ref and stuff like that by the Bears player. Stuff like that is ridiculous that there's flags getting called and changing the game, especially during the fourth quarter. There's upgrades that are available to be made in technology in order to make the game better. Everybody's going to get mad because it's going to take away the core values of the game, the human mind, stuff like that. It's all going to be technology. But wouldn't you rather know for sure. It's as easy as a chip in the ball, truly. And the other problem is if you don't want to update the technology. Right now, the NFL is still dealing with part-time refs. They're not paying their refs enough. Older refs are talking about this because many old legendary refs who were in the league just a couple years ago have now left for TV gigs because they get offered all this money to come on for Fox, NBC, whoever it may be, and on game day be their referee analysis guy, and that pays a lot more than the NFL is paying for their refs at the moment. There needs to be programs like schooling and stuff like that for the refs, and it needs to be a full time thing. Refs can't be having another job on the side. That's a ridiculous thing to think about. And most people think that that was a thing that used to happen back in the day. No, that's a thing that still happens now with the refs, and that's why so many of these calls are taking place. I like these last 2 seasons. The flow of the game has gotten much quicker because they're on the phone with New York at all times, trying to get information back and forth. And New York with the replay system, the refs on the field not having to go over the tent, look at the replays, all that. It makes it a lot easier and makes it a lot quicker for some of these big calls. But also at times when it's a quick call and it ruins the game, some of these like the pass interference when you were able to challenge a couple years ago, I was liking that. It's better than when then there is a terrible, obvious thing and there's nothing anyone can do about it. At least let New York come in when it is so bad. I don't know. It's getting to the point where it's compromising the game and getting in the way of football teams winning games, and that's where I think it's crossed the line. You can't be doing that. Now that we've gone another 4 weeks, actually, since I took last week off, we've gone another 5 weeks, and it's time for my Super Bowl picks and my championship game picks. I started doing these the first week of the podcast, and I do them every 4 episodes. Now going into week 13, I still am thinking NFC, Green Bay versus Tampa Bay. Thinking it's going to be at Green Bay right now. Don't know. Green Bay's 2 seed, Tampa Bay's 3 seed, and Green Bay is going to get its revenge this year. I never like to say it. I am confident it's going to happen this year. I'm feeling it. AFC, Kansas City versus the Pats. It's going to be a close game. Bill Belichick is going to be wanting to go. And the flip side of this is if I get the championships right, but not the winners here, it's going to be Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl. But I have Kansas City. Kansas City is dominating offensive stat categories, and I just think experience is going to win here. At the moment, it'd be at the Patriots. If it was at the Patriots, I would be a little bit more worried. But if it ends up at the Chiefs, then I really don't have a worry at all. At the Chiefs, I think they would be able to get to Mac Jones and disrupt them. And then looking at the Super Bowl, Kansas City versus Green Bay, I believe it's in LA this year. And I've got Green Bay just due to defense. Like I said, the amount of injuries there are, the amount of just problems there have been this year, and how good they've been. It shows the amount of talent on this football team, and it's incredible. I want to talk about college football just for a brief minute before I get into my picks. A lot of you guys probably saw the Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly news. Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. He is now at USC. And Brian Kelly, Notre Dame Notre Dame has the opportunity to go to the college football playoff after this weekend. And Brian Kelly left this week. Straight up left. Biggest clown move I've ever seen. I don't like him. And now, after realizing some of the stuff Brian Kelly's done in the past, I even like him less. Brian Kelly left Notre Dame to go to LSU this week. So two big college coaching transfers. Oklahoma now seems to be screwed. You have all these 4 and 5-star recruits transferring. I know Spencer Rattler was benched, but Spencer Rattler is now in the transfer portal. Caleb Williams, their star quarterback that actually comes from Asheville, where I'm from. Caleb Williams is uh has taken University of Oklahoma quarterback out of his Twitter bio, which is a big thing. And now it's kind of Oklahoma is up in flames. They're supposed to be transferring, a bunch of things are supposed to be happening, and now they're up in flames. Riley is going to be a great coach for USC, in my opinion. It's going to bring college football back to Cali and a historic program in California. It's been kind of dead the last couple years, but it's one of those programs that's always going to be historic and is always going to be a top money job for coaches. And when that's the case, this is just going to work out with a big name like Lincoln Riley. He's going to do so good in USC, in my opinion. But a guy I hope doesn't do good is Brian Kelly at LSU. He's getting over $100 million, and he's had players complain about his coaching for one. He's been guy. There's all these stories coming out. Well, it's true stories. Brian Kelly made a guy get up on a forklift like 10 years ago, even when everybody told him not to, all the safety guys, to film practice. The wind blew, knocked over the forklift, guy died. He made Matt LaFleur, Packers head coach, and Robert Saleh, Jets head coach. He invited him to his personal dinner party. Matt LaFleur and Robert Saleh. And Robert Saleh has confirmed this to be true. This is the only reason I am mentioning this. Robert Saleh and Matt LaFleur get there all dressed up, and Brian Kelly hands them some striped, like, bright gear, and then tells them to go park cars. And that's what they did the whole night. They parked cars. And it's kind of like you hear it and you laugh and you're like, what? And yeah, he's getting over $100 million. He texted his players and then had a 2-minute meeting at 7 a.m. just to be like, all right, I'm out. Right before potentially making the playoffs, which is absolutely insane to me. I don't know how a guy does that and just keeps. That's what's amazing about college football to me. College football coaches are the stars here. They're the ones that produce all this money and bring in the big eyes. They're the name, like the quarterback in the NFL. His name is the one that's constantly getting reviewed and put in article headers and stuff like that. That's college coaches for college football. So the like these are going to be massive deals in the future. College coaches have all of the power in college, and it's ridiculous. I think we see more and more of it every year. And thankfully, at least the players are allowed to make money off of their name now. If these deals were still getting done with how big they are and college players weren't making any money off of their names, y'all would hear me harping a lot more. But yeah, good for Lincoln Riley. I don't think Brian Kelly's going to do well, but that's just because I don't like him. I do like LSU, though. I wish the best for LSU. All right, guys, it's time to get into my spreads of the week. I got 5 games for you guys this week. Last episode 7, I went 4-1. I've been on kind of a heater here lately. It's been going good. Game 1 coming at you. I got Tampa Bay at the Atlanta Falcons. Tampa is a minus 10.5 favorite. You know, after the AB news, I'm a lot more skeptical, but I still got Tampa winning big. Tampa to cover the 10.5. I think they're starting to click here. It is now December. It is football season. It is time to go. Indianapolis Colts at Houston Texans is my next game. Colts are a 9.5-point favorite. I got some big lines for you guys. The first 2 are big lines. Sorry about it. Indianapolis, 9.5-point favorite. I've got Indy all day. Big bounce back week after losing to Brady. I don't think there's any reason for them not to beat the Texans by 9.5 points, especially after the Texans just lost by like 7 points to the Jets. It should happen. Next game, I got New York Giants at Miami Dolphins. Already went on a big rant about the Dolphins. Dolphins have won 4 straight. Tua looks amazing, and I'm really hoping they keep this energy up here. Miami's favored by 3 at the Dolphins. I got to take that all day. Miami -3. Hammer that. Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers, all this stuff's coming out with Chase Claypool wanting to play music, past players coming out, blah, 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 blah. Mike Tomlin, he's great at getting stuff under control, but I still see it being a problem, and I still see the Baltimore Ravens winning this game, and the Baltimore Ravens to cover the 3.5, Baltimore by 3.5, and New England Patriots at Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are favored by 3 here. I don't know if New England's going to win this game, but I know New England's going to keep it within 3 points. I have Pats +3, so that's my top 5 picks of the week for you guys. Go over it again. Tampa Bay -10.5, Indy -9.5, Miami -3, Baltimore -3.5, and Pats +3. So that's all I'm going to have for you guys this week. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of the show. And be sure to come back next Thursday or Friday for week 9 of the Adam Eisen Show.